Well, the Federal Reserve was initially created to serve a few functions. One was to provide for a uniform currency, which was a banknote that was redeemable and backed by gold. Of course, the original Federal Reserve notes were backed by gold and they were redeemable. What happened was before the Fed, various banks around the country issued their own notes. And by having one central bank issuing notes and then rediscounting those notes to all the various banks around the country, we would have a uniform currency that could be used from the East Coast to the West Coast, and it would be very recognizable. It was also to improve the quality because Federal Reserve notes had to be backed 40% by gold. Now, they were redeemable 100%, but you actually had to have the backing to issue the notes in the first place. And that was a higher quality of gold reserves than what was typically, what other banks had prior to the Fed. So they were going to be a higher quality of notes. And also, they wanted to help create a more elastic money supply. And what they meant by elastic at that time was that as the economy expanded, the money supply could grow, and then as the economy contracted, the money supply would shrink. So it wasn't going to provide for an ever-growing money supply, just a money supply that would expand and contract along with the economy. The structure of the Federal Reserve is basically a system of banks, member banks, located in various cities in the United States, and then you have the main Federal Reserve Bank in Washington, D.C. Now, of course, way back when, each Federal Reserve Bank would issue its currency, and that currency was backed by gold. That's why you had all the serial numbers on the original Federal Reserve notes, because each serial number corresponded to a liability from the Federal Reserve. In fact, Federal Reserve notes are liabilities. They're actually listed on the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve as a liability. Now, it used to be that they owed you gold. They don't really owe you anything anymore. It's kind of like an I owe you nothing. The asset side of the Fed's balance sheet now consists predominantly of U.S. Treasuries, although it also has now a bunch of mortgage-backed securities that they acquired in the aftermath of the financial crisis. But it really was started, it was a private banking syndicate. It is not an arm of the federal government. It is actually taxed. The federal government levies a tax on the Federal Reserve. It's allowed to keep a certain amount of profits every year, and then 100% of the profits beyond that level are paid as a tax to the Treasury, but it is an independent private entity. Although the Board of Governors, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, is appointed by the President of the United States, and they're confirmed, but it is not part of the federal government. It's supposed to be an independent central bank that's supposed to act as a check against reckless government spending or just a lot of money printing. But unfortunately, the independence is really just a smokescreen at this point. The Federal Reserve kind of acts hand in glove with the U.S. government. They work together on policy, and the Federal Reserve really has become nothing more than an engine of inflation and debt monetization. It's doing exactly what the original act was written to prohibit. That's what they've done. Of course, they've watered it down over the years. They've changed the Fed's mandate. The idea is that the Federal Reserve can fight unemployment by creating inflation. It can't. It actually just makes it worse. The best way to fight unemployment is to have a vibrant economy with sound money, and most of the unemployment is a result of government intervention in the labor market. It's not a result of inflation being too low.